Welcome to the Keto Diet Podcast, the show all about keto for women so you can burn fat, balance your hormones, and heal your body. Starting and maintaining keto can be challenging without the right support. So just for listening to the podcast, I want to give you 20% off the keto beginning with the coupon code Keto Podcast. That's all one word. This 30-day program gives you a clear step-by-step how-to so you can quickly adapt to a ketogenic diet, avoid common struggles, and get the results you crave. Go to healthfulpursuit.com/begin to get your keto beginning discount today. If you're new around these parts, I'm Leanne Vogel. You may know me as the international best-selling author of The Keto Diet, founder of happyketobody.com, or maybe you know me as the nutritionist that likes dipping pork rinds in avocado oil mayo. I'm so glad you're here with me today. Thanks so much for listening. Hey there, this is episode 400 of the Keto Diet Podcast. My name is Leanne Vogel. Welcome. This is a really special day. I like 400 episodes. It's insane. On February 15th, 2019, I was like, hey, why don't I start the Keto Diet Podcast? And so I came up with the first episode. Wait, what? Welcome? And we've had a wild couple of years, haven't we? Thank you so much to all of you who have been listening from the beginning and just supporting the show and sharing it with your friends and encouraging me. I get so many encouraging messages on a weekly basis in my Instagram messages. I love those DMs. I love chatting with you guys. It's so fun to get to learn from you and learn what you like and don't like and what you're looking for and how I can better serve you. So thanks for sticking with me. Also, thanks to my amazing editor who's been with me since the very beginning, Georgios. I don't even know how you do what you do absolutely wonderfully. You guys, round of applause for Georgios. Without him, this would not be possible. There's no way. He's so organized. I never have to check up on him. He's just like fantastic. I just love him to bits. And thank you so much for making this show possible. So the most important thing of this episode, and we're just going to cut right to it because I know if you follow me on Instagram, you know that this moment is coming. Many of you were asked, well, all of you on Instagram were asked, what do you want? How do you want to celebrate the 400th episode of the Keto Diet Podcast? And you guys were very specific. So super great. I love it. I'm going to deliver all of those things to you. So I have a couple of programs and resources that are up for grabs in celebration for this 400th episode. The first is free access to my blood work course, where I take you through how to understand your blood work, how to go through your blood work, everything that we talk about here on the show in the Understand Your Blood Work series that we're doing and will continue to do. I'm showing you how to look at it, the reasons for high and low levels, the functional ranges. Okay, so if you look at your most recent blood work, you're only going to see the allopathic ranges. These are the diagnostic ranges. We don't want to look at that. We want to look at the functional ranges. So I've put together a course with all these details in addition to metric and standard measurements of all of these markers, how to prepare for your blood work, and so much more. So you have access to win this with this little giveaway. I shouldn't say little giveaway. This is epic. The second thing up for grabs is 1 year access to my root cause group, where I take individuals through how to address root causes, from opening up drainage to parasite work to GI work, all the way through everything that can happen to your gut and how to support, into metals and mold work, full detoxification of chemicals, and last but certainly not least, pathogenic bacterias. We get into a little bit of virus work in the end. We also talk about liver flushes and how to know when they're good or bad or not to be used and all those sorts of things. So it's a really fun group. So you have access to win this. And the other part of this giveaway is one of my keto diet books. So either the Keto Diet Cookbook, or Keto for Women. So in order to enter to win one of these items, leave a review for the show on your favorite podcast player, then send a screenshot of your review to info@healthfulpursuit.com. Okay, so you're going to go on your favorite podcast player. Maybe that's the Apple app, podcast app. You're going to leave a review, an honest review. It's fine. We like honesty here. So whatever you feel like this show should get, please put that in. Take a screenshot and then email info@healthfulpursuit.com, and you'll be entered to win either access to the blood work course, 1 year access to root cause group, or one of my books, and you get to choose. Then we have an even larger giveaway, a session with me, and I'm going to be sharing that a little bit later and how that's going to work. So Let's start off and just talk about some of my favorite moments and some of my personal favorite episodes. I would love to hear what your favorite episodes were. I think some of my favorite episodes were probably the ones where I was most nervous for the guest to come on. Like, I interviewed Chalene Johnson and I thought I was going to die. Like, I remember doing her workouts in my basement in Montreal in like 2000 and what was that? 13. Okay. And she reached out to me and said, will you come on my podcast? And I nearly died. So she interviewed me and then I interviewed her all about 131 method. That's episode 184. Also, Dr. Josh Axe came on the podcast, episode 103, and we talked about keto cleansing. I was so nervous for that episode, guys. Like, sometimes I'm just so incredibly nervous for guests to come on. Like, I hope you don't hear that in my voice, but oftentimes, especially there at the beginning, when I first started the show and I was still trying to figure out my voice and how to literally talk to, like, you're talking to a wall. It's really challenging to like stay, what I want to say, like, it's hard to stay personable. And so I remember being so nervous for that interview. Same with when I interviewed Gary Taubes, episode 289 on why we gain weight. I had read his book. I think it was Why We Get Fat years ago. And I was so nervous to have him on the show. And then he started making jokes and he was just such a personable person. And then I was like, there's nothing to worry about. I remember interviewing Dr. Perlmutter on how to avoid dementia very early on in the podcast. It was like episode 11. He had done this amazing video review of my book, The Keto Diet. He was so supportive of all the work that I put out there. And I'm so forever thankful for all the, just like encouragement that he provided. Another episode that really sticks out in my mind as I was going through the archives, Dr. Jason Fung, episode 272, talking about intermittent fasting, a fellow Canadian and just a really fun human to chat with. He's so data driven and it's just so incredible. It was a great time and I learned a whole bunch from him. So those are just some of my favorite moments. I've also made so many friends and maybe you have too. I would love to hear from you. Feel free to send me an Instagram DM of guests that have been on the show that then you followed and they've become a huge part of your life. I know some of those guests for me have been Dr. Lisa Coach, episode 114, where we talked about upgrading keto. After she came on, she started with Happy Keto Body. She was on my Happy Keto Body program way back in the day. I think we launched that in 2018. And then I had her on the podcast. At that point, her and I were quite close. I had gone to Tampa many times to visit her, been to her clinic. She's a great dear friend, and I haven't spoken to her in a really long time. I really need to reach out. Whether you're keto, low carb, paleo, or somewhere in between, electrolytes facilitate hundreds of functions in the body, including the conduction of nerve impulses, hormonal regulation, nutrient absorption, and fluid balance. This is amplified on the ketogenic diet, but every human requires this balance. When you have adrenal hypo or hyperfunction, this affects your body's ability to balance sodium and potassium. Do you get headaches behind your left eye? This is a good sign that you need sodium. Headaches behind your right eye? This is a good sign you need potassium. Nearly every one of my clients that I work one-on-one with have an imbalance of electrolytes when they first come to see me. Symptoms such as headaches, muscle cramps, fatigue, sleeplessness, are seen right there in their blood work. Much of this is improved with proper electrolyte supplementation. Now, I personally consume at least 1 packet of electrolytes daily, and not just any electrolyte, Element electrolytes, because it doesn't have sugar, fillers, coloring, artificial gunk, and has the effective electrolyte ratio that so many other guys don't do right, with 1,000 milligrams of sodium, 200 milligrams of potassium, 60 milligrams of magnesium, that perfect combination. Right now, Element is offering my listeners a free sample pack with any order. That's 8 single serving packets free with any Element order. This is a great way to try all 8 flavors or share Element with a salty friend. Get yours at drinklmnt.com/KDP. This deal is only available through my link. You must go to drinklmnt.com/KDP. Element offers a no questions asked refund, so you can try it totally risk-free. If you don't like it, share it with a friend and they will give you your money back, no questions asked. You really have nothing to lose. I just love these guys. Again, it's drinklmnt.com/KDP. Another dear friend of mine, Noelle Tarr, she came on the episode number 158 talking about body image and fitness. She is one of my favorite humans that talks about this in just the best way possible. I just really like her content. And she had actually encouraged me to start my podcast. She has an amazing podcast. I think it's still called Well-Fed Women. Clearly, I don't listen to it anymore because I'm so incredibly busy. I have no time for podcasts, but I used to put on my snowsuit in Canada and go for a walk and listen to her podcast. And I loved it. I loved the format. I loved how they communicated. I just loved everything about it. And so she's become such an encouragement for me over the years. When I got baptized, she sent me a little baptism gift and was just so encouraging in my faith. Vanessa Spina, she came on episode 83 talking about optimal ketosis. She is just such a smart woman. Dr. Will Cole came on episode 298. Have you listened to that one? It is so good talking about fasting. In fact, I believe it was after I recorded an episode with him. He was passing through Miami. I happened to be like 2 or 3 hours north of him at that point. And so I drove down and went to his event, and it was so cool to get to meet him in person and support him at his event. Okay, let's talk a little bit more of this other giveaway because I know you're just like chomping at the bit to figure out what this is and how you win a session with me. Okay, so I am fully booked at this point for the next 2 months, but I have blocked off a space in my calendar for a special someone. So how do you win a session with me? All you have to do is leave a review for the show, okay, on your favorite podcast player and send a screenshot of your review to info@healthfulpursuit.com and go to healthfulpursuit.com/labs and sign up for my newsletter. Okay, so it's 2 steps. 1, leave a review. Send me an email with that screenshot of that review to info@healthfulpursuit.com. And number 2, go to healthfulpursuit.com/labs to sign up for my newsletter and you could win a session with me. So all of these giveaways, we are going to be randomly selecting winners on January 1st, 2023. So you have a couple of days to submit your reviews and all the things, and you will be randomly selected once you've sent that email. We need to get that email from you or we won't know if you did it. Okay, so leave a review for the show, again, on your favorite podcast player, and you'll be entered to win the blood work course or root cause group or one of my keto diet books. I will ask you which one you want, or a session with me if you also are on my newsletter list, which you can sign up by going to healthfulpursuit.com/labs. Okay, some more like really fun friends that I've made over time. Autumn Smith, episode 207 about mental health. So good. I probably get the most comments about that episode and how pivotal it was for all of you. I definitely recommend listening to it if you haven't already. That's episode 207. Autumn and I met at a trade show. I can't remember if it was Paleo. I don't even know what it was called at that point. PaleoCon or Paleo something. And she had just launched Paleo Valley meat sticks and I fell in love with them, and she's just such a cool chick. And so we've chatted ever since. Another really awesome episode was when I interviewed Michael Rutherford, episode 326. All about blood work. And at the time I had no idea about functional blood chemistry. It was just some guy that followed me on Instagram and he said, "I'd love to come on your show." And I was like, "Yeah, sure. Sounds cool." And he blew my mind. It was crazy, to the point where I took his course and then 4 others. And now I'm a blood chemistry specialist and do all the things he talked about in the recording. Another really great episode, and a dear friend of mine, Ashley Save, episode 380, we talked about gut issues. We had some fun chatting about enemas, and she has helped me with my personal health so much. I'm just so thankful for her. And I took her GI map course earlier this year. She's just a great human being, and that episode is a really good one. Also, last but certainly not least, another person that I consider to be a friend and is doing great work out in the world, Dr. Christy Harville. Episode 396, we talked about adrenals and just adrenal health overall. So yeah, some pretty awesome moments, awesome people. I would say the most terrifying moment that I can remember off the top of my head, I was interviewing, I don't even remember what her name was. I don't even remember. Linda Bacon, I think it was. And at the end of the episode, we actually ended up cutting this out, guys, because it was this awkward moment and it never got in the podcast. So I was interviewing her and she was talking about her son. And I just said, oh, your son's going to make such a good husband one day. And I shouldn't have said that. It was a moment. It was a moment. So we actually cut that out of the episode because it turned into this whole thing. And oh my goodness, I felt bad. She was really frustrated with me. And so it's really awkward when you're recording an episode and you don't really know a person and you don't really know the limits of the questions that you can ask or the statements that you can say. I mean, there have been times, in fact, I don't even know. Oh yeah, you guys haven't even heard this episode yet. So I was recording with a company. It's coming out actually pretty soon in 2 episodes. You'll hear the awkwardness at the end. We're going to keep that in the episode where I straight out asked them why they were partnered up with Thorne Supplements, who decided that they would force their employees to schmaccinate. Otherwise they would lose their jobs. And at that point, I stopped using Thorne Supplements. I think I have 1 client on a Thorne supplement because it was the only one that she was responding to and we had to do it. Otherwise, I have found alternatives that are even better than Thorne. And so I said what I needed to say and it was an awkward moment. So yay for awkward moments. A lot of these things never make it to the end, you know, like all the cobs and the ums and the ahs and all the things, you know. I've recorded podcast episodes in the bathroom of an RV. I have recorded podcast episodes in the hallway of a hotel. I have recorded them. When we first started the show, I was living in a house and it was really easy. I would just book a recording every week and send it over to the editor and he would make it awesome and that would be it. But as we started traveling full time, oh my goodness, it got so complicated because I needed really good internet. I was interviewing people. I was making videos with them for YouTube. So I started booking hotel rooms for 2 or 3 days and I would record huge chunks of the podcast, like 3 or 4 months worth. And I would just be in this hotel room with no access to the outside world. I would order my food in. I wouldn't go outside. It was terrible, but I had to get it done. And these hotel rooms were expensive. So I discovered, I think it was like hotels.com. And there was another one that I was using and I would just choose hotels specifically that like branches that I knew would have good internet. And I would just hunker down. If you watched YouTube at that point, you saw me just in a hotel room back to back to back to back. And I would change my hair every episode. I would change out my shirt and we would go again and we would go again. And that was, oh goodness, from 2018 onward. I'm starting to think that the saying that the Keto Diet Podcast launched in 2019 was absolutely wrong because I feel like, yeah, it was 2016. I don't even know what I was saying 2019. Yeah, the Keto Diet Podcast released October 1st, 2016. So that makes a lot more sense. So when we were traveling full time, all these hotels back to back to back, that went on for about 2 to 3 years. Now, you know, I'm standing at my new stand-up desk. I have pillows all around. I hope the audio is just super fantastic. If it's not, there's literally nothing I can do about it, but I have a pretty good setup now. But it's really fun to just kind of go back, you know, for those of you that are maybe wanting to start a podcast or you are starting a podcast or you're just getting going. It's funny how much we spend time, energy, and money on getting the right setup. Now I use a lapel mic and nothing fancy. When I first got started, I had like the little microphone arm and the really expensive microphone, but it just got to be so clunky and terrible. And it was just so heavy and I hated carrying it around with me. So that stopped, definitely stopped. If there's one thing we all learned and can remember from high school, it's that the mitochondria are the powerhouse of the cell. And over the past couple of years, we've all been hearing more and more and more about the massive role they play in our energy levels, good metabolism, brain function. but how much are you actually aware of them and what are you doing day to day to keep them healthy? I won't go into the full biology lesson that I would love to on the importance of mitochondria, but let me just point out some major reasons why you should care about them. If you often feel exhausted and you don't have the energy to enjoy your life and accomplish your daily goals, such as going to the gym, spending more time with friends and family, etc. If you deal with brain fog every day that's affecting your performance at work, your mood, your personal relationships, and even your hobbies. If you're going keto, paleo, or any sort of other low carb diet and you're not reaching your fitness goals fast enough or just feeling like you're totally flat, or maybe you simply feel like you're getting too old too fast, your mitochondria aren't healthy and you need a boost. Now, Capex gets your mitochondria rockin'. A blend of protease, lipase, L-carnitine, dandelion root, CoQ10, and more. If you take 3 to 5 capsules of Capex in the morning on an empty stomach, energy, mental clarity, and focus should come flooding in. And if you're following a low-carb program like keto, you'll be giving your body the tools it needs to take your results to the next level. You can check it out at kenergize.com/keto diet. That's KENERGIZE.com/keto diet. If you visit the site today, you can get 10% off any package using the code Keto Diet 10. That's Keto Diet 10. Again, that's Energize/keto diet and use the coupon code Keto Diet 10 for 10% off. There was also a period of time with the Keto Diet podcast where we did mini-sodes, where we had short little episodes, and I loved the idea, but it totally messed up our podcast count. I think realistically, we're at much a higher podcast count amount than 400. I think we're at 430 because those mini-sodes kind of messed up the count. It was a fun idea. Many of you didn't really like that. Also, another thing you guys don't really also like is ads. There was a period of time where I tried to run the podcast ad-free. I think we made it maybe 6 months to a year. I don't remember. I dropped all my ad partners and I was like, hey guys, I came up with this idea. I'm going to just try this for a little while. So let's see how this goes. It didn't work. So it's not like it's expensive to run a podcast, but it definitely costs money with hosting and promotions and design and editing. And just also the time for me that it takes to put it together, right? It'd be like if your boss was like, I want you to come in on Monday, but you're not going to get paid. And you're like, well, wait, how am I supposed to buy groceries or pay for gas? So it's always been, I don't want to say a challenge, but definitely in the back of my mind of how to be fair, both to my podcast partners as well as you guys, just coming up with good content. I will say that some days podcast episodes are not very good and other days they are on point. And I think it also just depends on what you're going through and what your goals are and what you're coming here for. I remember having to bring podcast ads back and many people were quite upset about that, but I just couldn't make it work financially. We had this whole plan. We were going to do Patreon, which totally tanked. It did not work at all. So we had to bring them back. So I feel like it's a good balance now of 2 ads. We try to keep them around 30 minutes. That would be terrible. 30 seconds to 60 seconds. And as always, I only work with content or products that I actually use. So something you might not know is wherever you host your podcast they will offer you ads at a discounted price. So where you could normally make, I'm just making this up, where you could normally make $100 on an ad. If you work through the hosting company, maybe you only make $50, but it's a way to just fill in the gap when you don't have a partner. You'd be amazed at how many podcast shows do this. I do not. I cannot even fathom the idea of promoting a product that I don't use and don't love. And this, maybe you've heard the story before, but I'll share it again because this is how important it is for me. I was following a vegan blog many years ago, and she shared a frozen fruit mix that I was super excited to try. It was at Loblaws or Superstore. And so I went there, I found it, I got it, I made a smoothie, and I was like, blech, what is that? First ingredient, sugar. You think I followed her again? Nope. So I take it really seriously. I know that I only have one chance with y'all, and I really want to make it count. So that's why there's ads, and that's why I try to make them awesome. And that's why I really love when you guys have an issue with something, like, you know, your Eaton hemp order came wrong, or you don't actually like it, or your Paleo Valley sticks taste weird. Like, reach out to me. I want to know about it, because you guys are my eyes and ears, and I order this stuff like I'm a customer specifically so that I see kind of what it's like and how it works for you guys. Yeah, I think another encouragement, if you are, you know, looking at starting your own show, or you're just so curious about how this side of the world works, you have to be so organized to run a podcast. Like, there was a period of time I was so thankful. I had a team of people working with me on the podcast. It probably started around 2016 or so and ran until around 2018 or so. And they helped me with picking out guests and getting their bios and booking them and preparing questions. And podcast episodes were really organized at that point. And then I didn't have a team anymore, and things got kind of disorganized. Not necessarily the schedule, but more so just bringing in the correct format and asking the questions and taking my time planning out the episode. So I've really started bringing that back over the last 10 episodes or so, from like episode 390 to now. I hope you're noticing a difference, that things are a little bit more structured and organized. If you're not, bummer, but it's fine. I also took away show notes because nobody was using them anyways, and they take me at least 20 to 30 minutes per episode. And with a full client schedule and barely any time to eat or work out or bathe in the sun or eat, did I say eat or sleep? I just had to cut out something. So you're going to find in future episodes that I say a lot of the resources out loud. So if you want to jot things down, that's the time to do it. And I think, you know, there's always this delicate balance as you are, well, as I am, preparing a podcast episode, that there aren't too many ads, but there's a good amount of resources. There's not too many questions, but there's a good flow of things. There's not too much self-promotion, but there's a good amount of content. I can't tell you how many times people have reached out to me and be like, I know you host the Keto Diet Podcast, but like, where do I get your stuff? And I'm like, oh, I failed. But, you know, I never want to promote myself so much that you guys just dislike hanging out with me, because all I do is talk about myself. But I also want to make my resources available to you, and it's always such a huge struggle. So anytime you feel like I could do better, please reach out to me. The best way to do that is on Instagram, if you have it, at Leanne Vogel, and just DM me and let's chat. I will always be a million episodes ahead of schedule. Like, currently right now in this batch that I'm sending over to the editor, we're good until the end of February. I feel very confident in that. It's so important for me to be structured like that, because those episodes every week, I mean, they come out of nowhere, and boom, it's Tuesday again, and boom, it's Tuesday again. A week goes by so quickly, so quickly. Some of my goals for the upcoming year, and oh my goodness, I cannot even understand how I've been at this since 2016. I hope there's another 400 episodes in me. I hope there's more to talk about. I'll be honest, I've really struggled of whether or not to keep this podcast, the Keto Diet Podcast, because it's become so much more than that. I think it will always have a ketogenic backbone. I say, well, I'm starting to track my food again, and I'm at like 30 net carbs. Who am I? You know, just this ebb and flow of understanding that the ketogenic diet or a low carb diet in some capacity is the backbone of everything I do, whether it's with clients or myself personally, or the content we come up with here. So if you have any insight as to how you feel about it, definitely let me know over DM. I would love to hear your thoughts and suggestions. Yeah, but I don't know. I love the idea of speaking to you guys about the ketogenic diet, about that backbone. Like, if we can eat low carb, like low-ish carb, a lot of things will come into place, and then we can kind of figure out, okay, and what's next, right? Like, I really don't think that unless you're let's face it, unless you're an athlete, you do not need to be eating like 200 plus carbohydrates a day. You just don't. So if we can keep it around like 150 grams or less, welcome. Like that's the Keto Diet Podcast. I think we can have this ebb and flow of burning fat and burning carbs and having this metabolic flexibility with the backbone of your home base of the ketogenic diet. And so really my goals moving into 2023 is to just continue to do that thing. I love connecting with people online and hearing their story and being like, oh my goodness, you should come on the show. If ever you come across somebody and you're like, wow, they would be such a great fit on the Keto Diet Podcast, please let me know. Just send me a note, either an email or a DM on Instagram. I check that thing pretty frequently, and just be a part of where we take the show. I love, love, love having you a part of this. Okay. So again, those giveaways. So if you leave a review for the show on your favorite podcast player and send a screenshot of your review, emailing it to info@healthfulpursuit.com, you'll be entered to win the blood work course, the root cause group for 1 year, and any of my keto diet books. And if you go a step further and go to healthfulpursuit.com/labs and sign up for my newsletter, and then you also email info@healthfulpursuit.com with the review of the show on your favorite podcast player, you'll also be entered to win a session with me. I'm going to be picking winners like randomly, of course, January 1st, 2023. I'm so stoked to get to share these products with you and just give away a whole bunch of things. That's so great. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today. This is a really special moment. I totally messed up the start date of the Keto Diet Podcast at the beginning, but we're not going to edit that out because we're just going to roll with it. So thank you for being with me since 2016. I know there's at least one of you out here that's still listening. I hope. I haven't lost you yet. And I hope to come up with 400 more. So thanks for hanging out with me. Thanks for being on this ride with me. And always, if you have ideas or encouragement or anything, just send me a message. I'd love to hear it. Okay. Bye. Thanks for listening to the Keto Diet Podcast. Join us again in a couple of days to discover more keto for women secrets for your fat-fueled life. Music for the Keto Diet Podcast provided by Yechi. Follow Jacob on Instagram at Yechi_official and on Spotify as Yechi. That's YECHI. The Keto Diet Podcast, including show notes and links, provides information in respect to healthy living, recipes, nutrition, and diet, and is intended for informational purposes only. The information provided is not a substitute for medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment, nor is it to be construed as such. We cannot guarantee that the information provided on the Keto Diet Podcast reflects the most up-to-date medical research. Information is provided without any representations or warranties of any kind. Please consult a qualified physician for medical advice and always seek the advice of a qualified healthcare provider with any questions you may have regarding your health and nutrition program.